Training of your team, trainers and end users. In this video, you will learn how to design, plan and execute the right SAP training strategy for your project to ensure that all your project stakeholders has the training they need. The video is divided into the following topics: the training strategy design, what are the training needs for your project, and how to successfully execute and manage your project training. So let's start looking at the training strategy design. And the first question that we need to ask ourselves is, how is learning best retained? And to answer this, I found some research here from, I believe, a Harvard study. But what this schematic shows is that by lecture, meaning one-way communication of information, the average retention of the training is very small. It's like only 5%. Whereas if you go to the bottom here, where teaching others immediate use, meaning people are teaching others of the training that they just got, you will actually have a retention rate of 90%. So what we want, of course, to achieve is we want to have our team being in a position where once they get the knowledge, they will be able to retain it. And the best way, according to this, is that we ask them to teach others. That put a mental pressure, or how to say it, it puts a mentality that they put to their mind that they need to know, because there will be other people asking them questions in this. And with that mentality, the training will be more effective. So in between here, of course, you have the other ways of achieving, obtaining knowledge. Reading, that can be reading, or audiovisual is slightly better. Demonstration, group discussion, practice by doing, and so on. So with that, let's go forward, aiming at, we want to get the high retention rate, meaning we want people to be able to immediately use the training, but also be able to teach others. So also, before we start looking at how to do the training, let's just look at an SAP project, and let's look at where is the implementation effort or cost. So this is a chart taken from SAP. So as you can see here, the cost of the total project, this is the total project cost. Training is around 15%. This is the 15% of the total cost. And out of the training, it is approximately 80% of the training that is related to training your end users, and only 20% training your project team. And depending on how mature your project team is, it might even be less. So out of the project team training, normally it is a classroom training, it's a small portion, and then you might have on-the-job training. But more interesting here in the big picture is the end user training. So this is 80% of the total training budget, and basically what that effort is 50-50 between the actual training of the end users and preparing the actual training material and the other prerequisites for doing the training. So you want to be very effective in your preparation. That can save you some time, and then you want to make sure you deliver it in a way to the end users which they will retain it, and that is most effective as per your schedule. So this is how things comes together, and this is how the training, when we are talking about training and how much it is out of the total effort cost. From this you can see it's very little of the complete project is not more than 50%. So with that picture in mind, let's go through the training strategy design. So first thing we need to do is we need to find out what are the current skills available to us, and we need to assess our skills in terms of the project team, the end users, and if we have subcontractors or vendors involved. Once we know what we have, we need to look at what are the skills then required. And we need to mapping of the skills required for both SAP, but also project tools and processes, as well as other technologies or other soft skills, very specific functional skills, whatever it might be we require. So we need to map the skills we require, and we need to map those, as you can see here, back to who needs to have the individual skills. Is it the project team? Is it the end user? Is it the vendors? And this is all required to be done, to be analyzed and documented for us to determine who are to be trained. And here, once we have the mapping, we need to have named project stakeholders. Those are the people that needs to receive training, and they need to receive this specific training. Then we need to look at, are there any training constraints on our project? That can be budget, physical location, availability of the stakeholders to be trained, etc. So previous project I did, or one of the recent projects, we had a constraint that simply taking people out, we had a large number of locations and a very small team in each location, so it was impossible to have everyone assembled for 1 week training somewhere. It meant basically you need to shut down the location. So you had to have ways, we designed ways where we could bring the training to them, and we had a backup team, a backfill team that could then go out while they were doing the training. Then they would attend the job function, answering the phone, doing the process, whatever needs to happen, so the people could be released from the training. They could have a clear mind, focusing on what the training provided for them, and then not be worrying about their day-to-day job, and thereby not pay attention to the training. An often situation here, which is really something you as the PM must ensure. You need to ask these questions. You need to drill into or probe into this training constraint, because you need to find out that, are we simply just taking the people out doing training 8 hours a day, and then after that they will actually, those same people will have to do their daily job. That is not sustainable, and you will have people which are sitting mentally, having their mind somewhere else to the work they have to start after the full day training day. Or if you have people using their laptops, they might be sitting emailing or doing their daily work. So you really need to probe into the training constraint. Finally, once you know that, you need the training approach and the strategy. And this is, as mentioned, how will the training be conducted? Taking into consideration the constraint, who to be trained, what training they need, what skills they already have. So all of this comes together in item 5 here, which is the training strategy. So I'll be happy to share templates about training strategy with you. Please ping me in the forum, and we can discuss it in more detail. There will also be some downloadables about training. We will have a training plan that you can download, but the strategy itself comes in many forms. So I'll help you through that in the forum. So let's look at the common adopted approach, which is train the trainer, abbreviated TTT. So we have the project team. The project team trains a group of nominated trainers, and those trainers then train the end users. So the trainers might be selected end users that will get the role as a trainer or a super user. Often power user, super user, trainer, that's terms commonly used for that group. Another way is the project team trains the trainers, and then the trainers will train a number of supervisors, which then will train the end users. And this could be in a situation mentioned before, where you have many locations, that you might have nominated people saying, I'm going to train you, you come here for a week or 2 weeks, how long the training required. Once you're trained, you go back, cascade the knowledge down to your local organization. Now, needless to say that the more link in the chain, the more possibilities of miscommunication, misunderstanding, and it can make it less effective. But on SAP projects, because the user base is big normally, and it is the key people, then you will have to adopt some kind of train the trainer approach, but design it in a way that fits your organization. Other ways of making knowledge available is you can have user communities, and it can be internal, external communities. You can have like a internal competency organization which has the competencies of the process, the SAP process that you're putting in place, and they will share this. They give they bring this forward as part of a community which the end users can sign up to. So all the accountants are in their finance community, logistic, and so on, and they kind of knowledge share themselves. Now, this model to work requires that everyone puts in an effort. As you can see here, it's all connected. It's a spider web, and the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. So if no one contribute and build the community, no one share the knowledge with their colleagues through the communities, this will not work. Then you will have a model where you're buying someone to do it, and you know it is there, like what we are doing here on our. So another approach is user communities. So it can be internal, external communities where you have a community created, which everyone who is involved in the project, and they share their knowledge among each other, and thereby make the community stronger and stronger, and have a way where they can ask questions, obtain knowledge, but they also can help their colleagues. Now this really relies on everyone contributing, and sometimes this can be very difficult. In these times we have organizations cutting down the teams to the bare minimum, meaning everyone is busy during the workday, and putting on this additional responsibility might not be the top priority. Alternative, you can go an external community where you are having someone, you contract someone to provide this knowledge, provide ongoing e-learning sessions and follow-up sessions, and post in the forum, consolidate the knowledge and share it, send it around. That takes some of the stress away from your local community members, but they still need to be engaged to have benefit from it. Another way is you have an incentive for them to contribute. It can be that there is give back requirements to becoming a more senior person to be promoted. There is certain give back requirements that has to be fulfilled. You have to join this community, you have to write these articles, you have to give back, you have to do a lecture, whatever it might be. And that kind of forces people, if they want to go and be promoted, they have to give back. So this is something that I have seen many successful and unsuccessful models for, and I work with some of the leading companies in knowledge management. So I'll be happy to share a lot more of this in the forum. And the other way is expert forums, where you simply you have dedicated people, such named experts within each areas, and people can then ask and get the answer right away. They can again be internal or external, but this is not a volunteer basis. This is people's who their job is to be the expert. So you ask the questions, and they give it you the answer back. So there are some third-party vendors doing this on there. We are one of them on the project management part, but there's also, if you contract SAP and you buy the SAP license, you will have access to the SAP expert forum, which is the SAP support team that will answer you back. There is certain restrictions, so you might not get the functional questions to how to use your system. You will only get the answers to problems or issues with SAP. So there is a gap in the market which you might need to find some third-party vendors to fulfill. We can fulfill it on the project management part. But really the question you need to ask yourself is how to best retain knowledge for your team, your organization long term. And again, as I said, you might want to look at incentive schemes, how to integrate the knowledge sharing and knowledge building into your KPIs for the individual employees. That is based on promotion, bonus, and so on. So there is an incentive for people to build and retain their knowledge. Okay, so let's have a look at what are the training needs for your project. So this is a chart that we've used in a few lessons now, where we have the project phases on the top, and then we'll plot in what are the training needs. So in the beginning, it is the project team. During the project preparation, we need to make sure the project team have the project tools and methodology, the SAP basic skills that they need. Later on, it becomes the trainers, which is now needs to be trained and knowledgeable in the new business processes, and they need to start preparing for training the end users. And end user training, they of course need the new business process. They need to know how to do their daily job. At around go live, you will need to make sure you have a support team in place who also know the new business processes, and they might need to know it on a more technical level in order to support your new process design. So the training activities to achieve these training needs is, in the beginning, initial project training, and it's documented in the training strategy. And you need to have training needs assessment, where you are determining what are the training needs that you specifically have to plan for and prepare. And once you know that, you need then to build the train the trainer material. You need to arrange train the trainer training. This is training of the trainers. And for the trainers, then needs to prepare end user training material and arrange end user training. And then you will also need to prepare support procedures. What are the written support procedures that needs to be at hand? And you need to make sure that whoever you nominate to do the support for your process after go live, that they are trained in what they need to know. And if you remember the chart and the pyramid in the beginning, learning by doing or teaching others are the best way. So on the job training, I've seen on a number of SAP projects where you have a vendor, the internal staff tend to lean back and say, no, it's not us, it's the vendor who needs to do this. And it might be that the contract says the vendor will do this, and the business users nominated from the organization will do this, and this is the clear responsibilities. But try and get involved as much as possible. Get your team involved as much as possible, because on the job training, learning by doing is the best way to retain the knowledge. So despite that you're paying someone to do it, motivate your staff to get involved so that they can empty the vendor's brain, so to speak. So an example here of a training plan for an SAP implementation project, where this was used for communicating the project training to the stakeholders, where we had the phases on the top, the different key activities, and then we mapped out what training would everyone gain along the way and what systems would be available for supporting the training. So everyone would know that in the beginning, during project preparation, there would be introduction course done in this case by SAP. There would be some overview training provided by the project, and this is the content, high level. There will be this system available that will support everyone. They can log on and play around. So this was like a consolidated view that we used on a particular project, and we'll share a training plan template with you that you can download as well. And if there's any questions to your specific project or to the material, please go to the forum as always. So lastly, let's look at how to successfully execute and manage your training. So first of all, align the training material to the culture and standards of your organization. Keep it simple. I've seen where key stakeholders said, no, I want it this way, and at the end of the day, the material that was produced, which took a long time and almost killed the entire project team, was never used, because actually the end users who was going to use the to receive the material, they preferred the simple way. So keep it simple. Perhaps do a test saying this is how the training material is going to look. How will this work with you? And remember, there's different cultures in different countries. So some likes it very high level, short on PowerPoint, audio material, audio video. Others like it very comprehensive, written. So keep it simple, but adapt it to the cultures where the training is going to happen. And then another lesson learned here is, don't wait until everything is there to start doing your training materials. As you build your solution, you're working on the screens, you're configuring, start collecting what you need later on for the training materials. Otherwise, you will have, if you do it step by step like pearls on a string, you will, depending on what the format and the scope of your training, it can be a very significant effort required to do the training material. So my recommendation is always prep those that is doing the material and tell them you capture the screens, the data along the way, with the focus to accelerate your deliverables. Track completion of the training material. And again, I'm a fan of tracking sheets. You might have tools where you're putting in your training material when it's finished. Then you can use those tools to track how much is done and how much has not been done, how much has started but not yet complete. But you need to have some kind of tracking mechanism to monitor that the training material is ready in time. And allocate time for QA of your training readiness. Both the material itself, but also the system. You might need to have rehearsal of key sessions where you only have one chance to get this training across to the end users. You might need to do a rehearsal of that session to make sure everyone is ready. And don't forget, again, it's said in the QA, but don't forget the training system itself and the technical preparation. There's nothing worse than the system is not there, the data is not there, or the students who are in the classroom ready to learn cannot log on. So test the technical system and the preparation of the system. And then remember that especially if you are a global rollout where you will go through several training cycles, then make sure that both the trainers and the participants are evaluated. And it is not with the purpose to point fingers, it is to find out if anything needs to be changed in the material, in the system, in the training content, with the goal to make sure that you have a trained end user base ready before you go live. If your system is ready and it's tested, but the users don't know what to do, you cannot go live. A trained end user base is a key criteria for go live. So make sure you evaluate and take action. And it might be that, as hard as it might be to tell them, there might be people who don't have a flair or don't have a natural skill set for becoming a trainer. Then take them away, find someone that can. And there might be people who are very introvert, which is not asking questions in the training. You need to check, do they really understand, are they confident, are they trained and ready for go live. If not, you might need to have specific sessions with those users, and you might need to adapt your training to fit with whoever the audience is. But you need to do this evaluation, and both trainers and participants, no matter if it's internal trainers or external trainers, you need to know. With that said, let's do a summary. So after completing this video, you should have a good understanding of what are the training elements that is going to happen during a SAP project, when are they going to happen, and how do you plan, execute the right training strategy for your project to make sure everyone has the training they need. As mentioned, there will be a training plan ready for download in the forum and in the website together with this video, and also will be available in the forum anytime as always. Thank you.